Today on Toy Habits Reviews, we have the Filmation Heroic Warrior Goddess in the spotlight. And before we dive into the review, smash that like button, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss a beat. Hey everyone, welcome back to Toy Habits, and we are taking a detailed look at the Masters of the Universe Origins cartoon collection Teela, and we are having a ladies only part swapping party, so let's get right to it and take a look at Teela's package. If she had a package. And here is Cartoon Collection Teela on the amazing card that they have for these figures. I love the blues and purples, and she looks amazing if you're going to keep her on card. You can also see the training robot is packed in along with her sword and her shield front and center. And turning it around to the back, we see the beautiful card art and the homage to the Pawns of the Game Master Filmation episode. And as we move down the card, we see the training robot and Teela's pose with her sword and the cross cell letting us know that Stratos and Merman are on their way to the cartoon collection. All right, well, let's flip her around and get her out of the package and take a look at the figure in more detail. And now that Teela is out of the package, let's take a look at her head sculpt first. And they did amazing detail with her facial expression here, and it really resembles the way that she showed up in the Filmation cartoon. Her lipstick is dark, and they painted her eyes really well, and they even put in some eyelashes or makeup that's to the right and left of her eyes. They did a wonderful job with the tiara. You can see that there is some oblong circle on her tiara, which is neat. And this piece is kind of malleable like her chest armor is. So it provides some nice depth and dimension. They also did an amazing job with her hair, just flowing back naturally around the back of her head. And it really looks very lifelike here. All right, and turning her around to the front, we have her chest armor, and what this piece is actually a piece that overlays on her buck, and so it's not an integrated piece or a sculpted on piece, so it gives the appearance of the figure in more of a 3D representation. And the armor really follows her Filmation appearance with the raised collar and also the detail on her chest. Now, since this is a piece that is added on over her buck, you are going to get an effect where it might not lay exactly straight or correct, so you might have to manipulate it or just bend it to get it to show like the way you want it. She also has gold bicep cuffs on her arms, and of course with the cartoon collection you're not going to see a lot of detail on her wrist cuffs or her bicep cuffs, but the paint app actually is a nice shiny sheen to it, which goes along with her sculpt on her chest armor. And moving down to the legs and the boots, this is the corrected knee version of Teela, and we can see that she has white furry boots that are more of a reddish brown in color. Now, the color of her armor, they didn't quite nail this aspect because in her Filmation appearance, it appears to be more of a darker gold than a brighter gold. But all around, this figure looks spectacular. And taking a look at Teela's weapons and accessories, she comes with a shield, a sword, and the training robot. So let's take a look at her shield first. And her shield is a very simple design with some rivets around the circumference of the shield. And you can also see the shield handle on the back. It does have a nice sheen on the plastic, so it's going to catch the light very nicely. She also comes with a sword, which is a nod to her Filmation appearance, and it's got a cool crossguard, but this sword is gummy, so it's going to bend and flex, so just be careful that you just don't get it set in a very odd position because it's just going to look weird with it in hand. And next up is her training robot, and I don't know if I've missed this in the description, but the training robot is articulated, so both arms move, and it has a bayonet on one side, which is really cool, and that has also a nice crossguard with a nice wrap on it, and it has a blaster cannon on the other side. It also has some cool detail, and actually if you look at this, it kind of looks like a TIE fighter from the Star Wars lore, so it's actually kind of cool. I wonder if they lifted that from Star Wars when they were thinking about the design. But all around, the training robot is done very well, and very cool that it has articulating arms. Alright, and here is Teela all geared up, and she is defending herself from this training robot. Now, I am not skilled enough to add in these blast effects, but it's kind of cool that you can just kind of play with this like you were a kid again. And let's face it, we're all kids at heart. Where are my ladies at? Alright, we have all the versions of Teela just so you can see which parts are swappable and how they look on each of the figures. So let's first take a look at the first release of Teela compared to her cartoon collection version. And taking a look at her first release, and the obvious differences are the wrist cuffs and the bicep cuffs, as well as the boots. And the first release of Teela also came with her serpent headdress. So I'm sure this is going to fit on the cartoon collection, but let's take a look at that in a little bit. But I'm sure you're wondering if the first version of Teela head will fit on the cartoon collection. Inquiring minds want to know, so let's do a head swap. Alright, and I haven't played with my first version of Teela very much in the last couple years, but I did discover that my Teela has a defect in it where the ball joint is actually attached to her head and the figure is separated a little bit, so I won't be able to swap heads this way. If you want to throw the headdress that came with the first version of Teela on this cartoon collection figure, it does fit, as I think these figure bucks are actually the MOTU Origins figure bucks, come to think of it. So this is how it looks from the back, and this is how it looks in the front. And it's not bad. It frames out her face really well, so if you want to have a different look for Teela in the cartoon collection and kind of mash her up with her first version, this is a good option. Alright, so I've brought in the Teela that came with Zoar, the one with the high ponytail. So let's see if we can swap heads with this one. Alright, so I've removed both heads. Off with your head! And I discovered something really interesting. And if you take a look at the ball joints that are on both Teelas, the cartoon collection version has a little bit bigger ball joint. So the other Origins heads are not going to fit on this figure buck, but the cartoon collection head sculpt actually fits very nicely on the MOTU Origins bucks, just because the ball joints are a little bit smaller and they can actually clip in very nicely, so you can see how she looks right here. Alright, we have Teela carnage everywhere, but let's see if the Origins figures fit on the cartoon collection buck, and yes, they do snap in at the waist, so you can swap the upper bodies in and out with each other, and these are very hard to stand because their feet are so small, and the cartoon collection figure plugs in really nicely. So if you want to have a swapped up look for the cartoon collection Teela, this is definitely a good option. Alright, so I just swapped out the left arms and they both fit onto each other, so you can kind of do some really weird things with Teela just to give her different looks. And the last version of Teela we're going to take a look at is her Snake Teela appearance as she appeared in the MOTU 2000X cartoon. And some of the cool things that you can do with this cartoon collection Teela, since the head will fit on and the arms will come on, it's kind of make it look like she is transforming into Snake Teela in her cartoon collection form, which I think is pretty rad. And just swapping the upper bodies, you can also just get a more fully transformed look, but you're going to have regular legs on the bottom, so it kind of looks like, oh, if she got tagged by a snake man, all of the snake man juices are flowing through her, but they have not reached her legs yet. And I'm bringing in the Masters of the Universe cartoon collection He-Man just to show you how small the frame and buck of Teela is. He-Man towers over Teela, and I think what they did was they just used the MOTU Origins buck and didn't create a specialized cartoon collection buck for the ladies, which I think is a big miss because she is so tiny compared to He-Man, and it just looks so odd next to each other. So I hope in further versions and iterations of these figures, just like they corrected the knees, I really hope that they give the female buck a facelift, if you will, and kind of giving her some more height and some more muscles in her legs. And that's a wrap on the review for the MOTU Origins cartoon collection Teela, so let us know what you think about this figure in the comments below. We also have a still image review done by yours truly, so be sure to check that out on our website, www.toyhabits.com. And as always, thanks for tuning into this Toy Habits review, and don't forget to smash that like button on your way out, and if you have not subscribed to the channel, we'd really appreciate it. See you next time.